Okay, so how excited should we really be? Hello guys, welcome back to New Who HQ. I am Matt, and today I'm going to give some reasons, some overall thoughts, now that we are into the Disney era of Doctor Who, about what I think it's going to mean for the future, what it means it's going to, what's going to happen to the show, etc. Now, as we know, Disney aren't taking control of Doctor Who in terms of they don't own it. The BBC still own it. They have just got the streaming rights to Doctor Who. So let's make that very, very clear that Disney do not own Doctor Who. So the first point is, I know it's the obvious one to say because like everyone's been saying it, but it's obvious, so I have to make a point about it, and that is obvious that the budget will be much bigger. Now, Doctor Who and the BBC have never had a big budget. Obviously, effects have gotten better over the years, but if we're looking back at like the Lazarus Experiment vibes or back in David Tennant era, for such a good era that it is, the effects are probably were some of the poorest the show I've ever seen in the modern version. And Series 1 was also the same. But I think that's what sort of was the magic behind Doctor Who back then, is that you had, don't get me wrong, some of the costume designs, like End of the World, for example, Season 1, Episode 2 of Doctor Who, that had such a small budget, and yet you had these crazy designs with, tree people, Cassandra, of course. So that doesn't mean that because there was less budget it wasn't knowing it was good, or, the imagination wasn't there. And you can look at this at both sides, but one point I want to think is that now Doctor Who has a bigger budget, do you think that maybe the imagination side of things might die down a little bit? Now, I sort of disagree with my own statement there, because at the same time, Doctor Who can now do things beyond its imagination that it could beforehand, because it's now got the money to do it. But at the same time, are things going to be less imaginative because you haven't got that limited, you can only do a limited amount of things on a small budget, so you had to be more imaginative, you had to think outside the box. Now you've got more money to throw around and more ideas, which for now a Disney audience you expect it to be higher budget. Does that take away some of the imagination maybe? That's obviously something to think about. I think though one of the positives to the budget side of things is obviously Russell T Davies especially is the sort of writer that likes to explode things in the finale. If that is, obviously in Season 3 and Season 4 his finales back in Tennant era were quite massive, end of the world sort of, everything's blowing up, everyone's dying sort of vibe. Now, I think he actually executed that pretty well back to them times and what he had, but I mean some of the effects are very, very poor compared to now, and maybe to show the scale of what he was trying to, create didn't fully come across well to us on screens because of the low budget. They couldn't afford to show parts of the world being exploded or in more depth issues. So now they have that could obviously widen the imagination of something that's already happened, but because of the bigger budget that could obviously be bigger and better. Now there's been rumours about how much they'll be getting. I've heard that 100 million is apparently a number. I think that's probably a little bit too much, because obviously Disney know Doctor Who very, very well, but it's still a risk because it's not a new show, but it's a new feature that they're adding on. So you're not going to put that much money in it until you know that it is successful on Disney. Because yes, we know it's very, very popular here in the UK, it's pretty popular in America. I don't know about other countries, but this is the chance now to find out, other parts of the world might now start getting a larger following. But they're not going to do that until they know a larger following is there. So the 100 million is just a report, I don't think it's true, but I'm sure over time, if this works, it will become bigger and better. Something else which Chris Chibnall fell down flat on his face, a massive fall down on his face, was advertisement. Advertisement does cost money, but at the same time you can do that in quite a low budget style, iconic, remembering way, which Chibnall didn't. Now, advertisement is imperative to Doctor Who, and I feel like with Chibnall not doing it, we saw how he couldn't reach certain audiences, and some people didn't even know when release dates were on, trailers weren't being released with enough time for people to get excited about things. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why that era, Jodie Whittaker's era, Chris Chibnall's era, didn't do very well, but I'd say it's one of the factors for it and why you couldn't get newer people in, because they didn't know about it and what you were showing them wasn't really of interest to them. So I feel like Doctor Who have learned from that, and Disney are very much, they're massive, everyone knows about them, so the name itself gives them, oh, Disney and Doctor Who. okay, well I like Disney, so I'm going to give this show a go. And even when Disney was announced, they were putting out very basic, videos of Doctor Who explaining who the Doctor even is. So really getting back to the basics. So that's a great way of advertising to introduce new audiences. So I'd say the advertisement will continue to get bigger and better, but I think it's already been pretty good for starters. So that is something that which having Disney on your side does help you massively. And yeah, sort of what I touched upon a minute ago with the bigger budget, but this will mean that more locations will be able to use. That's not saying that using one location isn't a bad thing, but you can widen it up, and this will be more sort of important for actual finales when they are using different locations to show the scope of a situation, either good or bad. So I think overall, thinking about it now, I think it's a positive thing. It's just very, very different, and I could sense that in the 60th specials and especially in the Church of Ruby Road. And I said in my review, which you can watch, I did reviews on all of the specials, that part of magic for Doctor Who, and I think this is also magic for me when I was a child, was that Doctor Who was low budget. It was kind of, crappy looking CGI, which worked for the show, and that's what Doctor Who was known as. And that wasn't a bad thing to many, many people growing up, and it sort of stuck with them that a show could be that low budget and still make these incredible stories. Blink, Midnight didn't require a lot of budget. If anything, Midnight is literally in one location for like 40 odd minutes of the whole thing. So not much props were used, you just had a room. That is arguably the best, definitely one of the best Doctor Who stories ever made. So there's definitely no bad thing with having less budget, but maybe now that we've got so much more budget, are we not going to be seeing any more of that sort of vibe from the olden times? And that is just part of moving with the times. Technology, CGI is a lot better now, we have to understand this, but maybe does it take away the magic of Doctor Who? I never thought I'd be like a little bit sceptical on Doctor Who getting more money to then improve their CGI, but I think I'm used to how it used to be so much and it worked. It's not too bad. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'll be very interested to know. As I said, if you're new, please subscribe and give this video a like, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Goodbye.